Wait, locked door, blocked windows, accident or did Ethan plan everything?
Smoke. Thick, black, alive. It didn't drift, it charged across the ceiling like it knew exactly where to go. I couldn't see her anymore. That's the first thing I remember thinking. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Not the fire, not the heat clawing up the walls, not even the sound of something collapsing behind me. Just that one terrifying realization. My daughter was somewhere in that room, and she was disappearing. Ivy! My voice tore out of me, raw, desperate. Baby, answer me! A cough. Small, fragile, somewhere to my left. I dropped low, one arm covering my mouth, the other sweeping blindly through the choking haze. My fingers hit the carpet, toys, something overturned. But not her. The heat surged. Have you ever felt fire breathe? Because that's what it felt like the room itself was inhaling, preparing to swallow everything whole. Ivy, stay where you are, I shouted again, forcing myself forward. Then I saw her, a small shape, curled near the couch, shaking. Relief slammed into me so hard it almost knocked me over. I've got you, I whispered, grabbing her, pulling her into my chest. She was burning up, coughing into my shoulder, her tiny hands clutching my shirt. Mom, I can't. You can. I've got you. The door. That was all that mattered. I stumbled toward it, every step heavier than the last, every breath sharper, thinner. We just needed the door. I reached it, grabbed the handle, twisted. Nothing. I frowned, panic flickering, twisted again, harder. Still nothing. No. I shifted Ivy to one arm and yanked with everything I had. The handle didn't move, didn't even twitch. And then I heard it. A sound so small, most people wouldn't even notice it. But I did, because it came from the other side of the door. A soft, deliberate click. I froze. Every instinct in my body went cold. Someone was out there. I know you're there, I screamed, slamming my fist against the wood. Open the door, open it. Silence. Then footsteps. Slow, calm, walking away. And in that moment, I knew exactly who it was. Caleb, my brother, the only other person with a key, the only one who could have locked us in, the only one who would. The smoke thickened, swallowing the last light in the room. And behind me, Ivy's coughing started to fade. I turned and ran back into the fire. My brother always said family was everything, just not in the way I thought. If you had walked into that apartment a few hours earlier, you wouldn't have seen danger. You would have seen normal, or at least something pretending to be. I didn't want to be there. I need you to understand that. Going back to that apartment, the one I grew up in, was never part of the plan. But life doesn't really care about plans, does it? Rent got too high, my job cut hours, savings disappeared faster than I could rebuild them. And Caleb, he stepped in. Stay here, he told me. You and Ivy need stability. Simple, generous, almost too perfect. And that should have been my first warning. Because Caleb Wiles, 31 years old, wasn't generous. Not growing up, not ever. But when we moved in, he acted different. Too different. He fixed things without being asked. The sink, the lights, even Ivy's broken toy. He stocked the fridge, paid bills early, spoke calmly, controlled. Like he was following a script. At first, I told myself I was overthinking it. People change, right? But then the small things started stacking up. He didn't like Ivy laughing too loud. Didn't like doors being closed. Didn't like questions. And the way he looked at us, not angry, not warm, just observant, like we were something he was studying. That night, everything cracked. It started with an envelope. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I was looking for a charger in his room when I saw it sitting half open on his desk. My name was on it. That's what made me stop. Inside documents, legal ones, property records, insurance forms, signatures. My signature, except I hadn't signed anything. A cold weight dropped into my stomach. When Caleb walked in, I was still holding them. "Why do you have these?" I asked, my voice already tightening. He didn't answer right away, just leaned against the doorframe, watching me. Then he said, flat and quiet, "Because this place is mine now." I blinked. "What? You signed it over." "No, I didn't." A pause. Then a slight smile. Not amused, not kind, just certain. "You will." Something in the room shifted, something invisible but sharp. I didn't argue again. I didn't try to reason. I just turned, walked straight to Ivy, and picked her up. "We're leaving," I said. And here's the part that didn't make sense. Caleb didn't stop me, didn't argue, didn't even move. He just stepped aside. "Of course," he said. Calm, easy, like he'd already won something I didn't understand yet. That feeling followed me as I packed. A quiet pressure in my chest. Why wasn't he fighting this? Why did it feel like he wanted us to leave right then? And then the lights flickered once, twice, and somewhere deep in the apartment, something sparked. A second later, I smelled it. Smoke. Fires don't start like that, not all at once. Tell me something. Have you ever seen a fire begin? Not in movies. Not controlled. Not small and manageable. I have, and this wasn't normal, because it didn't start. It exploded into existence. 1 second. I smelled smoke. The next heat slammed into the hallway like a wave, thick and immediate, as if something had already been burning long before I noticed. That was the first thing that didn't make sense. The second, how fast it spread. "Ivy, come here now." She ran to me, eyes wide, already coughing. I grabbed her, my brain trying to catch up with what my body already knew. This wasn't an accident. I rushed toward the front door, but smoke was already pooling along the ceiling, dropping lower by the second like a curtain closing. "Mom, it hurts." Her voice, small, strained, cut through me. "I know, baby. Stay with me, okay? Stay right here." I dragged a towel from the kitchen sink, soaking it quickly, pressing it over her mouth and nose. "Breathe through this, just like we practiced, remember?" She nodded weakly. We moved low. Every step felt slower than it should have been, like the air itself was thickening, resisting us. Then we got closer to the door. And for a second, just a second, I felt it. Hope. But then I saw it. A thin, steady line of light glowing beneath the door frame. Not flickering, not orange. Clean, bright, hallway light. I stopped cold because that meant something very specific. The fire wasn't out there. It was in here. Contained. Controlled. My stomach dropped. "Caleb," I whispered, the name tasting wrong in my mouth. And suddenly, it all started lining up. The documents, the argument, the way he didn't stop us from packing, the way he wanted us in this part of the apartment. He knew exactly where we'd be. This wasn't chaos. This was placement. I lunged for the door, adrenaline surging, twisted the handle, locked. My pulse roared. I slammed against it. "Help! Somebody open this door!" Nothing. No voices, no movement. Just the crackling behind me growing louder. Then, footsteps. Right outside. Slow, measured. I froze. Every part of me went still. I know you're there, I shouted, desperation tearing through my voice. Caleb, stop, this isn't funny. Open the door. Silence. For one long, unbearable second. Then, metal shifted. The lock, I felt it through the handle. He was touching it. For a split second, hope surged so violently it hurt. He's opening it. He has to be. But instead, click, not unlocking, locking it tighter, sealing it. And then footsteps, moving away, calm, unhurried, like he had nowhere else to be. Like this was already finished. Caleb, I screamed, pounding the door with everything I had. Nothing came back, nothing but the fire. And then behind me, the coughing stopped. When my daughter went quiet, I knew I had seconds left. Ivy, nothing. Not a cough, not a movement, nothing. And if you've ever been in a moment like that, you know silence can be louder than anything. No, 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 no. I dropped to the floor, my hands shaking as they swept across the carpet, blindly searching. The smoke was so thick now, it felt solid, like I was reaching through something heavy, something that didn't want to let me find her. Ivy, answer me. My fingers finally brushed against her arm. Too still, too light. Ivy, wake up, baby, wake up. I pulled her into my lap. Her head rolled slightly against my shoulder, her body limp in a way that made my chest seize. This was it. This was the moment everything breaks. But something inside me refused to let it end there. No panic. No screaming. Just one clear, violent thought. Get her out. Now. I forced myself up, dragging her weight against me as the fire surged behind us. The walls were starting to glow, paint blistering, the air turning sharp and unbearable. The door was useless. I didn't even look at it again. There was only one option left. The window. I stumbled toward it, each breath thinner than the last, my vision tunneling. The glass stared back at me, old, sealed, painted shut from years of neglect. Of course, I rasped, almost laughing at how impossible it felt. But impossible wasn't an option. I laid Ivy down just long enough to grab the nearest chair. Stay with me, I whispered, though I didn't know if she could hear me anymore. Then I swung. The chair slammed into the glass. A dull crack. Not enough. Behind me, something collapsed, loud, violent. Heat exploded outward, licking at my back. I swung again, harder. The crack spread, thin lines spidering across the pane. Come on, come on. Third swing. The glass shattered outward in a violent burst. Cold air rushed in like something alive, cutting through the smoke, hitting my lungs so sharply it almost hurt. Relief didn't come. Not yet. I dropped the chair, grabbed Ivy, and climbed through, ignoring the glass tearing into my arm, the sting barely registering. We spilled onto the fire escape, metal cold beneath us. Voices erupted below, neighbors shouting, someone screaming to call 911. Sirens faint, but coming closer. I didn't care about any of that. Ivy, hey, hey, look at me. I shook her gently, panic creeping back in. Wake up. Please. Please, baby. For a second. Nothing. And then a cough. Small, weak, but real. Air rushed back into my chest as if I'd been underwater. You're okay, you're okay, I whispered, pulling her close, my whole body shaking now that it was over. Or that's what I thought. Because then I looked up across the street and I saw him, Caleb, standing perfectly still. Watching. No panic, no urgency, no shock. Just observing, hands in his pockets like he was waiting for something to finish. Our eyes met, and in his expression, there was nothing. No regret, no fear, no hesitation. Just a quiet, empty certainty. Then he turned and walked away. Like leaving us to burn had been just another task he'd completed. And in that moment, holding my barely breathing daughter in my arms, I understood something that made my blood run cold. This wasn't over, not even close. The fire didn't take long to consume the apartment. By the time firefighters forced their way inside, there wasn't much left to save. But we were already out. Barely. They pulled us down from the fire escape, oxygen masks pressed to our faces, voices overlapping, urgent, controlled. Ivy was rushed into an ambulance almost immediately, her small body disappearing behind closing doors as medics worked over her. I tried to follow. They wouldn't let me. Ma'am, you need treatment too. I'm fine, I kept saying. My daughter, just take me to my daughter. But even as I spoke, my lungs burned, my head spun, and the world tilted. Still, I held on to one thing, one sentence, over and over. My brother did this. At first, no one reacted the way I expected. They nodded, calm, professional. Let's focus on getting you stable. It could have been electrical. These old buildings, but I didn't stop. I told them everything. The documents, the argument, the lock, the footsteps, the click. And while doubt lingered in their eyes at first, it didn't last. Because the fire didn't behave like an accident. Investigators found it quickly, accelerant traces in the living room, deliberate burn patterns, tampered wiring designed to delay detection but not prevent ignition. This wasn't random. It was constructed. Then came the footage. A neighbor across the street had a security camera angled just right. It showed Caleb entering the building earlier that evening carrying a small container. It showed him leaving shortly before the fire took hold. And most importantly, it showed him coming back, minutes after the flames had already started, walking calmly up to the apartment door, pausing, reaching out, and turning the lock from the outside. That was the moment everything shifted. There was no more maybe, no more accident, just intent. Caleb was arrested 2 days later. He didn't run, didn't deny it, didn't even look surprised. By the time it reached trial, the motive had unraveled completely. Debt. Not small, not manageable, crushing. The apartment, still partially in my name, was insured for far more than it was worth. If Ivy and I had died inside, he would have inherited everything. Clean transfer, no complications, a reset. It was supposed to be fast, he said in court. That was it. No apology. No explanation beyond that. Just a failed calculation. I didn't react. Not there. Not when the verdict came back. Not when he was sentenced to 25 years. Not when they let him away in cuffs. The reaction came later. In a different apartment. Smaller, quieter, safe. Ivy asleep in the next room, her breathing soft and steady, the kind of sound you don't take for granted anymore. I sat alone in the dark, staring at the front door, closed, locked. For a long time, I just watched it. Then, slowly, I stood, walked over, and unlocked it. The soft click echoed louder than it should have. I didn't open it all the way, just enough. A few inches. Enough for air. Enough for light. Enough to remind myself that door wasn't a trap anymore. No one was on the other side waiting to seal it shut. No one was coming to take anything from us again. Everything had changed. Not just where we lived. Not just who we trusted. But how we survived. And for the first time since the fire, I let myself breathe.
If this was you, would you forgive him or never unlock that door again?